I believe we should stage Noughts and Crosses today because, in a sense, it breaks ignorance. So it's like, I know that we live in a society that likes to believe that things are different now, which some of it is, but doesn't mean necessarily that it's better. So I know that, like, in a sense, we can like have conversations about racism, and people can say, oh yeah, but that was like slavery all the way back in the day, and da-da-da-da-da, but they didn't know that's actually integrated into society now, and that seeing that on a stage, like, and especially with the roles reversed as well, it causes you to actually see it, and it's like, oh yeah, right, like this is actually happening, like it's a serious thing. And the fact that the roles are reversed, it's different and it's impactful, and it's something that hasn't been done before necessarily. So it's just very interesting, and the world itself, like believing that it is our society just with the roles reversed, not just like a completely different world as well. And I also like the fact that the detail of the play itself is a very interesting play, and also the characters and everything, that will be very good for people to see.
I think that Noughts and Crosses should be staged today because it really amplifies the message that it has to a much wider range of people, a broader audience. And I think that this is due to the fact that we live in a very integrated society now, and there are lots of people coming from different backgrounds and ethnicities, and I think that, the message really has, a connection with everybody and every person, and it's very upfront, the play. The whole concept of it is very kind of direct, and I think that, by having that, you just create a bond which is hard to break, and it's a bond that, really has a meaningful impact. And I just think that it covers so many things that everybody can relate to, such as race, ethnicity, gender, class, and I think that, it's something which can get that message across much faster in a more efficient way.
And I feel like being on stage, it sort of puts it in people's faces and makes sure that they're like listening to what's going on and being connected. And I think seeing people perform on stage allows people to sympathise rather than with fictional characters. And I think it's important for the story to not just be a fictional thing. I think people need to realise it's going on within today's society, and it needs to be addressed.
I mean, like, we're just living in a really odd time where I feel like people are not empathising a lot with other people. It's really divided. It's quite like tribal, even in groups where we're looking at women or marginalised communities. And I think the play makes people really understand how it feels to be marginalised, and the understanding of privilege and all of these things we kind of take for granted because of kind of like things around fear, that we're trying to like isolate ourselves. And I think the story really opens yourself to question stuff about yourself, like have those kind of internal conversations. So that's why I think it's important to stage it.
The injustices that we are sort of facing in this world today, and to flip it and to kind of change the power struggle might alert people to those injustices. And also it's a story about two young people who are from both sides of those power struggles, on both sides, the top of the hierarchy and the bottom of the hierarchy, and how they navigate their own friendship through that.
I think it's essential for us to stage such a production today, so and for it to tour around the country and visit so many different cities and towns in which the realities that are shown in the play are still massive and still play a really big part in every person's life. I think that's important, and mainly because that's still happening, and people may think that that's a thing of the past and things like this don't happen anymore, but that's not true, and that's not necessarily true for everywhere in the UK. So things like this are still happening, and we need to talk about it, and we need to show people with the really powerful way that theatre can do that.
People don't actually acknowledge that these are events that have happened and are in some cases still happening in today's world. So just putting it in people's faces is just a statement saying that what's happening in this situation needs to stop and can't be happening and can't keep on happening.
Well, I think Noughts and Crosses should be staged today because, first of all, theatre is the mirror of the society. And especially because the text is flipped and the society is shown the other way around, I think it's a good image right in your face for people to see. And while they're sitting in their chairs watching this, their awareness will be raised towards their own position in the society. And, oh, wait, that can actually be me. And maybe it will make you think about what you're saying and how you behave towards other people.
I think it's very important that the play is staged because living in London my whole life, I've never really been exposed to racism as much as maybe other people have. So I think it's so important that there's a performance that's kind of flip-sided the whole kind of like hierarchy of discrimination and kind of made me have to go into a position where I have to maybe relate a lot more to racism and kind of take it on a lot more. So because it's such like a bold flip side, I think it will get people interested and like a lot more intrigued, and hopefully people can learn from it.
I think we should stage Noughts and Crosses today because as a mixed race person of both black and white heritage, I think it makes you confront that it's okay to be an interracial couple, and it mirrors society today, and that you don't have to choose black or white. It's okay to be both, and it shouldn't matter if you are black or white, because at the end of the day you're just a person. And I think it highlights the humanity that we should the humanity that we should gain together and join together, so we can all just live as one in one peaceful world.
I think it's important that we stage Noughts and Crosses today because in the modern social climate, what with Trump's America, the rise of UKIP, Brexit, etc., it's a relevant and relatable message to be told. And in addition, having it on stage versus a book gives a lot more of a realistic, grounded representation of a character, which I think is important when you're trying to tell a message.